Broadcasting live from the Capitol OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I am Seth Merrow and happy to have you joining us to talk a little racing action for Saturday at the various venues. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by Ren Carothers from Tampa. They have a couple of nice Florida Sire stakes today, so we'll talk that and a little more Tampa-wise coming up right about the bottom of the hour. But one of my favorite tracks opened yesterday. Annually, I like Oaklawn. I think there's some nice value to be had there. And if you were following along yesterday, we managed to find a little bit here and there on the opening day card. But as it is the opening weekend at Oaklawn, I thought who better to reach out to than our friend Nacy Holthus and talk a little bit of stakes action today, maybe recap the stake yesterday and more. Nacy, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Always happy to have you on board. And with the kickoff of Oaklawn, I thought it would be great to, remind people of the early start at Oak. We were talking earlier on the handicapping show. This is just the second year of the early start, correct?
Yes. So very excited. We've got some nice temps this year. A little more precipitation than we're used to, but I think this is a La Nina year, so we are under wet conditions.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday, and I asked you before we came on the air, and you said expect it to be kind of wet throughout the weekend. But again, it seems temperature-wise a little comfortable as compared to us up here in upstate New York. And I have to ask you, because we were marveling, I was playing around last night in prep and going through the Oaklawn Twitter feed and whatnot, and I saw the picture. It's back, and my colleague on the handicapping show earlier marveled at today at Oaklawn for folks, and I touted, I love my visit to Oaklawn, and I think the town and the track and the people, it's very Saratoga-ish that folks up in our area will appreciate. But I tout that folks also go down today at Oaklawn, $1, 2 corned beef sandwiches and a soda. How do you beat that?
You don't. You absolutely don't, Seth. So this is our world-famous corned beef sandwiches. They have been cooking for the last several days because we sell, I don't know how many thousands of pounds of corned beef. So, yeah, the lines start out the door. We actually open the doors early because sales skyrocket on this specific day. So, yeah, world-famous corned beef sandwiches here at Oaklawn Park. And, yeah, it is the gift that keeps on giving. Christmas has come early at Oaklawn Park.
Yeah, we were marveling. 2 corned beefs and a soda for $1. We gotta love that. Also, again, before we get into the racing, as I say, typically I prep and go through the Twitter feeds of my guests and whatnot, and I was looking through yours last night. And during the off season, I love this. We got a shot. I pulled up a little DJ action for Nacy Holthus with the folks at 103.7 The Buzz. Talk a little bit about the summer doing a little DJing.
Oh, my gosh, Seth, that is my dream gig. Mind you, I love what I do here, but it gave me the opportunity to chat all sports. It's an all-male sports. It's the leading sports station in the state, and, I love those guys. I'm a regular guest but I got a chance to fill in as a sports radio host, and it gave me the chance to talk all things sports, especially Razorback, and I actually got a chance to, it was media day for the Arkansas Razorback football team as well when they were down in Atlanta. So got to talk all sports, fill in for the early morning show and the show after that. Some of those guys were on vacation, and I was in my element. And people are still coming up to me and were just so, saying, wow, you really held your own because, if you get it, you got to give it back. So I was totally in my element, and that is absolutely my dream gig. So, if anybody's out there listening, I'm available. So
Nice.
It gave me a chance to, to kind of bust some chops while I got mine busted as well.
Excellent. Again, I thought the picture was fun and pulled that up. And I thought of our friend Dave Rodman, the announcer at Laurel, in his early days, he was spinning the platters though. He was on the music side, and I think I always get it wrong, but if I'm correct, he called himself Marty with the Party for some reason. So.
Oh, I love that.
Exactly. I thought, yeah, you and he can get together and talk a little behind the mic. But yeah, very interesting. And as I said to you off the air, I have a sister who lives down in Arkansas, Fayetteville, and nephews and whatnot. So I enjoy some Razorback sports. And basketball team looked good out at Honolulu a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
so,
they did. They totally were amazing out in Maui, and I actually was fortunate enough to go to the Ole Miss football game in a suite. You know, if I'm going to go do something, I'm going to go do it right. So got to go to one of the final. It was actually senior night at U of A up in Fayetteville, and fortunate enough to be friends with one of the Arkansas Razorback basketball coaches. And I tell you what, other than horse racing, horse racing is our professional sport here in Arkansas, our lone professional sport. But, if we bleed Razorback red here in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah, as I say, with my relatives down there, I also enjoy. I'm a Syracuse graduate, so that's where my loyalty lies. But I like to watch some of the Razorbacks as well. I can do the, hey, Pig Suey call a little bit if necessary. So,
You do it with a northern accent, though. That's okay.
Exactly. All right, let's jump in and talk a little Oaklawn opening weekend and beyond. And before we get into this weekend's action, let's kind of set things up. I was watching the pregame. I was doing my afternoon handicapping show yesterday, and before I went on, I was watching you and Vic do your pregame show, and you talked a little bit about the human side of things, jockeys and trainers. And on the jockey side of things, you guys were kind of speculating. Once again, it's going to come down to Arrieta and Cabrera to maybe vie for the title by the end of the meet. But you have Ricardo Santana, player in there, and some other notables. On the trainer side last year, Steve Asmussen kind of ran away with it. Robertina Diodoro in the mix. Kind of interesting on the handicapping show earlier. We mentioned Bill Mott has some horses down there, and his son Riley, who I've had on the show a number of times up here in Saratoga off on his own, he's based down there as well. So talk about expectations this season on the human side.
Yeah, I certainly see Steve taking another title yet again. He is on the cusp of 10,000 victories, so certainly be keeping an eye out for that career milestone. See him with another title. I set his line at even money, to be honest, just because of the amount of stock that he has. I mean, he's got horses in this part of the country at his beck and call, so he is constantly shipping horses in and out. So he has that ability. Brad Cox, has horses stabled here, down at the fairgrounds, but I don't think this is. He has some really solid horses here, but he usually keeps that A string down at the fairgrounds. Robertino Diodoro certainly has a very strong stable here, but there is an obvious absence of M&M Racing. They, I believe, are right now out of the game. But he still does have a very strong presence of new owners and some local owners. People in Hot Springs absolutely love horse racing, and they love to be involved. I mean, this is their playground. This is their country club, and they love to invest in horses, and they want to get their picture taken. So they will spend that money to be a part. And it helps that we have the richest purses, not only here in the history of Oaklawn, but in the country right now. We've got $50 million that we are giving away during the duration of the 68-day race meet. So that's a big, big factor right there. And that kind of correlates over to all the returning and the new faces in the jocks room. So it is going to come down, I think, again to the last part of potentially closing day to see who does get that riding title.
And I'll also toss out, we mentioned Steve Asmussen, the trainer, but his son Keith rode for him yesterday, again today. That'll be fun to watch. And I have to mention a jockey that we maybe have to keep our eyes on during the meet after yesterday, going back-to-back with long shots. Kylie Jordan got off to a great start.
Oh my gosh! Well, it's after that 30 and then I think a 47-1 shot. I texted somebody. I said, "Well, be looking out for Kylie Jordan. She's currently our leading rider." So, and then potentially, a lot of people had Tyler's Tribe, singled in the stake yesterday. Unfortunately, he didn't come out like a lot of people had predicted. So it was just one of those things. But a lot of people thought, after those big long shots, she was going to have 3 winners on the card. But with that being said, we've got a leading rider with Rafael Bejarano. So he bookended the card and then also won one in the middle for Tom Amos. So he is a very solid presence. But, talking about leading rider, he might jump up and do some really good things. So it's going to be a really interesting, new faces. Tyler Bays has returned. Joe Talamo is back. But, it's all going to come down who leaves for Keeneland and who stays until the very last day.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, no question about it. I always like the meets where you get a little bit of the human factor playing into the last couple of weeks of the meet, and I think this will be no exception. We mentioned it, you alluded to it, the Advent yesterday, and I wanted to pull up the replay and talk a little bit about it as there was an upset. Tyler's Tribe went off at 4-5. I thought off the situation in the Breeders' Cup I was going to take a little shot against, and I won the battle, lost the war because I used Happy as a choice. And that one wound up disappointing me a little bit, running 6th. But I had the right idea because there was an upset. Count de Monet gets it done. I think maybe a little overlooked coming in from Indiana, but was 2 for 2 prior to this and gets it done at 15-1. Alto Road runs second at 44-1, and Tyler's Tribe, a little disappointing here. We're watching the stretch run, going to get caught and wind up running third. But again, it was a nice performance by Count de Monet, and it sounded like the connections are going to continue on looking for 3-year-old spots for this one down at Oaklawn.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Really impressive, very smart by Santo Senjur to kind of, sit off that early speed because everybody knew Tyler's Tribe was going to go to the front and set those early fractions as he did. Went 22-1, 46 flat for the half, and they came home in 5 flat for that 5.5 furlongs. So, Santo was very smart in just, kind of sitting off. He was third by only a length at the half. So he was smart in letting Tyler, and then I believe it was Too Much Info that went up with him pretty early on. So they were just going to kind of duke it out and definitely played to his advantage. Santo wound up winning by 3 lengths in margins. So very happy connections. And Tom Swearingen has been kind of known for lighting up the board as he was last meet as well. So he's a good one to be able to get a nice return on.
Yeah, and we'll root for Tyler's Tribe to rebound because fun story there, the Iowa bred with lots of talent. And looked pretty good coming into the stretch. Just came up a little bit short yesterday, but I'm sure good things are in the future for that one as well. So that kicked things off yesterday stakes-wise, but we have a couple of nice stakes today as well on this opening Saturday. And let's kick things off taking a look at the Mistletoe, $150,000 up for grabs for the Fillies and Mares going a mile. I pulled up a replay and I went 10-1 on the morning line, Will's Secret. We'll see if the coach can get it done on the first Saturday at the meet. And we're going to look at Churchill Allowance Optional Claimer. Will's Secret's going to be the number 2 horse here, getting it done under Luis Saez. This afternoon it'll be Bejarano on board. But I also looked back, and there was a little horse for a course angle, 2 for 2 at Oaklawn for Will's Secret. So I'm tilting in that direction, but La Vida, probably the horse to beat. Coach is one I debated putting on top, but I pulled the trigger with Will's Secret. What did you see in the Mistletoe?
Well, it's a very, very competitive group, just packed full of talent. Certainly have to take into advantage that Will's Secret is a horse for course, as you mentioned, 2 for 2 here. I like the fact that she is coming in off of a win. She actually scored that last win at Churchill going a mile and a 16th, but I think she is going to benefit off of that short stretch of the mile run. So her last stakes wins were here in the Grade 3 Honeybee than the Martha Washington, but she has been facing some bears back in her 3-year-old campaign. But I like that her last win she did get at Churchill, so maybe get that little bit of a confidence boost. We are going to be looking at a sloppy track today. We have just been inundated with rain early this morning. Track didn't dry out as much as I thought it would yesterday, so definitely take that into consideration. But one thing to take into consideration also for Coach really does favor an off-track. 5 starts over a wet track, 3 wins, and a pair of seconds. So that is one thing to consider as well. However, Coach has been favored in the last 5 starts and has been off the board. Has been off the board last go. But however, that last start in the Grade 3 Chaluki was off Lasix. Does get back on the diuretic today, and Joe Talamo is in the iron. So there is a scratch out of the Mistletoe. Ice Orchid is not competing. Also an interesting shipper with Nacho Correas. He brings in the Chilean superstar Le De Vida, also with a young Frenchman who he boasts about, that is Chimeno. This young Frenchman who he says is the second best rider in Kentucky under Tyler Gaffleone. So can't wait to see this young Frenchman compete here at Oaklawn Park. La De Vida has back-to-back wins at Kentucky, so very excited to see this Chilean mare race, and also over a wet track for the first time also.
Yeah, the jock kind of attracted my attention when first showed up on the scene, and I don't know if it quite lived up to that yet, but I too will be interested to see what he does down at Oaklawn this winter. All right, let's go a little bit earlier on the card. The 7th race is the Ring the Bell, 6 furlongs for the 3-year-olds and up, vying for $150,000. And in here, I pulled up a replay of One for Richie. I'm going back to Horseshoe, Indianapolis on November 2nd. One for Richie is going to be the number 2 horse here. And I'm going to tilt in that direction coming off of this really nice effort. But Kavad is a player. Chat a lot. Another one I debated putting on top, but just couldn't quite pull the trigger in favor of that one as opposed to One for Richie. Flash of Mischief disappointed a little bit in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but coming out of that just prior had run a triple-digit buyer, so that horse is interesting. Boldor is a horse I've liked throughout the career. If that one upsets me at a price, I'll be kind of kicking myself. But what are your thoughts on the Ring the Bell?
Well, it's interesting you bring up Flash of Mischief, who kind of did not perform as well, but does get on Lasix today. I don't think you're going to get 7-2, especially coming out of that Breeders' Cup Sprint. Did face some power in Elite Power, CZ Rocket, Jackie's Warrior, but is a 4-time stakes winner. I do want to mention Kavad was last year's winner of the Advent, is tactical, does get off the rail today as he has drawn 3 of his last 4 starts. So I think that is an advantage for Kavad. I love One for Richie. That horse is so stinking consistent, in the money, all 9 starts this year, never out of the exacta. He doesn't have to be on the lead. He's got off-track experience. I'm a huge fan of Sippy Contreras. I'll say that all day long. I'm one of his biggest cheerleaders. I love the fact that Manny Escobar comes in for him. That is Sippy's nephew. I've been a huge fan of this horse, whether he is in a starter allowance or whether he is competing in a stake. So I absolutely love this horse all day long, but I do think he is going to have to step up. But I think I will wind up making One for Richie my top choice.
Yeah,
I also want to note, Ring the Bell does have a backstory. Ring the Bell, at the end of every race, owners have an option to go and literally ring the bell that's in the winner's circle, and when they ring that bell, they make a donation to the Arkansas Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. And in just the last 6 days, when the bell went up in the winner's circle, they raised more than $14,000 to the Arkansas Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. So we do have that foundation now, and you can check us out on Instagram, and we have a whole table set up today here at the races. So I'm very proud to be a board member, and thoroughbred retirement is one of my true passions, and a lot of people in horse racing.
Excellent. Yeah, we have the folks from the TRF up here, Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, on with us during our stint up at Saratoga. We talk a little bit about, they have some nice events, and so, boy, that's fun. I appreciate that. We'll certainly mention that a little more during the meet as well. And before I let you go, a couple other things I saw on your Twitter feed. I have not had on, it's been too long since I've had Jim Miller on. He used to be a regular when we had our weekday show. I got to get him on talking some Hawthorne again. But I see you were up with Jim for their handicapping tournament. Hawthorne has a really nice tournament. I'm just curious your reaction. I always, we've gone out and done the Vegas tournament a number of times. I've participated in a couple of tournaments up at Saratoga. I always think it's fun to talk with the guys who play at that level. What was it like up at Hawthorne that weekend?
Well, anytime I get to see my bestie, it's amazing. So he greeted me at Midway Airport. So you remember the MTV show Jackass? He greeted me with a poster full of Jackass memorabilia, and, I get to see his kids. I went to his daughter's cross-country meet, and the tournament was actually held at Oak Park OTB, which was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So it was great to see some of the players that I had known from back in the day, my time on the Chicago circuit. But I'm so excited to see what Hawthorne is going to be, when they get the casino and the new grandstand. But that's my old stomping grounds. So it's always phenomenal to see Jim, all the horsemen, and just some great racing there in Chicago.
Yes,
so that's my guy.
As I say, I got to reach out to Jim again. When I saw his picture on your Twitter feed, I thought it's been a long time since I've had him on. We'll plug him in. And one last thing I got to talk about, because it's been fun. I think it's been a couple of years old, a tradition down at Oaklawn. The handicapping belt, you and Vic Stauffer facing up. And I noticed on the pregame show yesterday, you guys were already talking about the belt. So you currently hold the handicapping championship belt down there, correct?
I do. He kind of changed the rules up this year. It is $2 win only. He decided no place money. And then we will do $2 win only, still double on best bet, most likely winner, and we will also do, I believe it's 6 Kentucky Derby preps. So I'm not sure why no place, but he makes the rules. So it's his world, I just get to live in it. So we'll see.
That will make the victory all the sweeter, right?
I'm two-time champ, so we'll see what happens. So
very good. We'll be watching that throughout the season, and certainly we will check back in a number of times as the season goes along. As I say, Oaklawn is one of my favorite venues, and I really wanted to have you on to kind of kick things off on this opening weekend. Always a lot of fun to talk to you, Nacy, and as I say, we'll talk again down the road.
Always. Thanks so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Nacy Holthus from Oaklawn Park. Again, opening weekend down there. A couple of nice stakes this afternoon as well. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, just a little segment of some news and notes, and then again, bottom of the hour, Ren Carothers will join us. We'll take a look at some of the action this afternoon at Tampa, another one of my favorite tracks. So stay tuned for all of that coming up right after this.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Again, just a quick little section of news and notes here because we have a couple of events coming up. Maybe we're checking into if you'd like to, donate. It's that season where folks think about donations and some charities to think about the holiday season, and always tout racing charities, and certainly keep in mind things like the PDJF, and I mentioned the TRF, the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, and whatnot. But there are a couple of events coming up where you can, make donations, and there is Coats and Cookies. The Lazy Dog Cookie Company, 30 Storage Lane in Saratoga, will be accepting winter coats that will be donated to backstretch workers from the Saratoga area. This will run through Friday, December 16th. Keith and Amy from the Lazy Dog Cookie Company will be accepting those. When you go in, say hello to Keith. I play some basketball at the Y with Keith. He is much, much better than I am. But again, if you have a warm coat, new or a gently used, but a new coat, bring it in. And you also will get some of the Lazy Dog product if you have a dog. So you can have a little trade there. But again, Coats and Cookies. So bring a coat in. Lazy Dog Cookie Company, 30 Storage Lane in Saratoga before Friday. So keep that in mind. Also, there's an event coming up this Thursday, the 15th, at Putnam Place in Saratoga, just off Broadway in Saratoga. Capital Region Magazine honors some of the bright lights in the area on this day, and one of those will be Nancy Underwood from BEST, the Backstretch Employees Service Team, who do great healthcare work for the backstretch workers up here at Saratoga and downstate as well. So if you go to this event, you pay your ticket price and whatnot, you can then designate the charity involved with any certain person as benefiting, and Nancy Underwood is going to be there representing BEST, Backstretch Employees Service Team. So keep that in mind for Thursday. Should be fun. Putnam Place in downtown Saratoga. Again, a couple of ways you can give back to the racing game during this holiday season, and that's always worthwhile. All right, we'll take a break. And as mentioned a little bit earlier, we will be joined by Ren Carothers as the Tampa Bay season also just kind of getting underway. Another one of my favorite tracks. And we get the bonus of Tampa looking vicariously down at that west coast of Florida weather, which is always, it's been too long since I've been down at Tampa. Sitting there in short sleeves and shorts in January or February is always a very nice way to enjoy the races at a really nice track as well. But they have a couple of nice Florida sire stakes this afternoon. We'll take a look at those and more right after this. Ren Carothers will join us. Stay tuned.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
Having trouble finding us? It's actually quite simple. Whether online or on your TV, it's never been easier to watch and wager on championship horse racing with Capital OTB. Simply log on to capitalotbbet.com. There you can watch our morning shows, live stream races, and wager on our state-of-the-art wagering platform. You can also watch from the comfort of your home on Spectrum Cable Channel 1250 or Fios Channel 467, and win more with Capital OTB.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Ren Carothers. I don't think we've talked since we had you live on the set with us up at Saratoga, which was a lot of fun. Ren, good morning.
Good morning. Is it too early to book a spot? I'll be back that Whitney weekend.
That's funny you say that. I have probably in the last month have had 6 months out or whatever, 8 months out, I've had like 5 people say, hey, I'm going to be in Saratoga, so reserve a spot for me. So your spot is reserved. Just let me know if and when you're back in town and you're in.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much. It's a blast to talk with you.
And talk a little bit about your Saratoga experience, because we had you on, but then you were around for a few more days, and I saw you over at the sales and whatnot, you and your daughter and company, and talk a little bit about your Saratoga experience this summer.
Oh, well, gosh. Well, apart from the travel woes that we had where we're just insane, but I mean, I can't complain too much because everybody is going through it across the country. But, yeah, I mean, once we were there, it was such a great time. We stayed at the Saratoga hotel that's right by the track. We dined in the 1863 Club. That was awesome. As far as the sales go, I always love going to that sale, in particular the Fasig-Tipton yearling sale, because you see so many of the great horses sold as yearlings in that ring. For example, Flightline was one of those yearlings, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, we had a great time at the sale. It's always fun. They have like a cocktail party, and then they have like the little restaurant there. You can watch the horses. You can commiserate. And you can really petty geek out, as I like to say. But yeah, no, it was a blast over there. I love it. And of course, the dining, we always make sure to go get a popover down there in downtown Saratoga proper. But it's just such a beautiful place in so many ways.
Yeah, it's always fun because it's fun for me to be live there on the backstretch, because it is kind of the crossroads of horse racing, and normally day in and day out there's a great number of industry people and trainers and jockeys there, but then you get people like you who come in from out of town, and fun to get a chance to sit down with the various people. Also, we get to today at Tampa. I want to go back subsequent to Saratoga. You did some coverage of the Breeders' Cup, and looking down your Twitter feed last night, I saw you had our friend Ernie Munich doing a little work with him. You always see Ernie running around, speaking of Saratoga, running around with the camera. He is great. Yeah, nice friend of ours. But talk a little bit about your work at the Breeders' Cup this year.
Well, it's so much fun. I'm so thankful I get to do these shows. The Future Stars Forecast, it's a weekly show that once we, get into the Win and You're In season, we're tracking these 2-year-olds that we're hoping are going to make the big dance in November. And so then week of, Ernie and I get to team up. I adore him. He is truly one of my favorite people in racing. The man is an encyclopedia, and he's so entertaining on top of it. He should be in front of the camera. But yeah, we have such a great time. We go to the barns in the morning. We interview the connections of the horses. And then the day of Future Stars Friday, we try to track down a winning connection of each horse. And then we film an interview with them that we can then later show in the weeks following the Breeders' Cup. So it's fun to look back and see, what it felt like that day, and get the emotion that was captured not long after, a Connections horse had actually won. And I will say my friend Jonathan Green of DJ Stable, who owned Wonder Wheel, they have a filly-in tomorrow at Gulfstream Park named Petty Geek. So I'm pretty excited about her.
Oh, very good. I like that. So it's a little homage, yes?
Yes.
Nice.
I was very flattered. He had 2 fillies that they bought from the sale, and he let me pick which one. And either would have been great. So I told him, you pick whichever one you want. And this filly is by Arrogate, and she'll be debuting, I believe, in race 7, a mile on the turf.
Oh, excellent.
For Mark
All right.
Cassie.
Excellent. And yeah, it was funny after Wonder Wheel won at the Breeders' Cup. I went back and I pulled up because we had talked to Mark up at Saratoga this year, and Mark was talking about Wonder Wheel, who was subsequently going to go in the stakes race up at Saratoga and disappointed a little bit up there. But he said, I always say it takes about 5 starts to really figure a horse out. And of course, Wonder Wheel's winning the Breeders' Cup, the 5th start of the career. So he nailed that. After 5 starts, he had her figured out pretty well. Very nice performance there, yeah.
And how cool is this? Because Jonathan tells me they're going to point her toward, so long as everything goes according to plan, the plan is tentatively to go to the Sun Coast at Tampa Bay Downs, and she may well meet up with Julia Shining in that race. That's pretty fun.
Excellent. You brought up Julia Shining, so I'll ask you. We were in doing the handicapping show last Saturday morning looking at that Cigar Mile Day, and I said, boy, I want to kind of go against Julia Shining because given what she did was visually impressive in the debut, but the number was a little light. So who did she beat? And I wanted to go against her last week, but I looked at the rest of the field and I thought, I can't do it. I had to stay. And she did the same thing, essentially, coming from the back of the pack. And again, I'm a buyer guy. It's a tool in the toolbox, but I'm a buyer guy. And again, the buyer was a little light. And so I came out of last weekend still kind of scratching my chin about Julia Shining. What are your thoughts on her? 2 visually impressive performances so far this year, but as I say, both of the numbers were a little light.
My thoughts are essentially that was a 2-year-old filly who has also got some size to her, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's one of my Saratoga experiences that I will not forget. Todd Pletcher was so very kind. He let me, Matt, and Ava go to the barn and hang out with the horses one of those mornings. And Malatot is Julia Shining's full sister, for those who do not know. And they both are so incredibly sweet-natured, unbelievable cuddle bugs. You hold them in your, you can hold them in your arms, right? So with Julia Shining, I don't really care too much about the buyers for the 2-year-olds, really,
okay.
Because if they have the type of pedigree this filly has, and she's just so exquisitely bred, that I am expecting them to develop more into their 3-year-old season anyway, and also especially with the track being as off as it was in the Demoiselle, and the fact that she was running against maybe not even, really relishing that kind of that surface. So I love storylines. I would love to see her come back. I love the idea, we are already, sort of a royal family, so to speak, right? But I will also say this is one of those, going back to pedigrees, one of these, you cannot ignore it at this point. It's just so in your face. Curlin over AP Indy is just so incredible. Or AP Indy or one of his sons or even a grandson like Tappet, for example, because that's the case with Cody's Wish, right? He's by Curlin and he's out of a Tappet mare. And then you have these fillies by Curlin out of AP Indy mare, but then you have Clary Air and, by Bernardini, out of a Bernardini mare, if I remember correctly. So it's just a really, really good nick there.
Yeah, again, a lot of people are taking your tack of she's just developing, let's see what we have. But I'm with you. Like you, I'm a storyline guy. The races are great, and I love to win a bet, and that's what it's all about. But I also love the stories, and she's continuing to be a fun story because of the way she runs is so spectacular. Yeah. I got into the game when I got in. The horse that I loved was Forgo, who was one of those come from behind horses, and I think we all love Zenyatta, and people love those kind of horses, and she has that style, and so she continues to be a really spectacular storyline. It's going to be fun to see as she turns 3 and goes along the trail. That would be great if we wound up a little showdown down there at Tampa.
Oh, I know, and I will be there. I
got to get down again. I've spent a long time. I used to be a fairly regular. I had a father who was retired before he passed away down in that area, and I'd go down, a couple of weeks every winter, and I'd get up to Tampa a couple of times. But it's been too long, so I got to get down. Maybe
Come
this
on
year.
out, Seth. Warm up after that winter. Come on.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to work something out this year. All right, let's get into this afternoon and get some ideas. A couple of nice Florida Sire stakes, and we'll work our way back from the Marion County. That's the 9th race this afternoon. I'm going to pull up a replay. I'm interested to hear your thoughts in here because Willie Boy is clearly going to be the horse that takes the action. off of the poor performance in the Breeders' Cup, but there was an excuse there. But I just thought, off of that performance, maybe I'll take a little shot again. So I put Noble Drama on top. Noble Drama, we're going to take a look at a replay here. November 12th, Noble Drama is going to be the number 9 horse. This was a pretty good performance and came from far back. You're always up against it a little bit when you do that. But I'm going to take the shot here at a little bit of a price. Willie Boy right underneath, obviously, and then Gatsby and Catton also look like players to me. But what are your thoughts in the Marion County?
I'm not going to try to beat Willie Boy.
Yeah,
I mean, and I really do try. I try so hard. I have so many chalky plays today. I really try to be favorites if I do think they're like super vulnerable. I completely understand why you would take your shot at Willie Boy based off that what happened in the Breeders' Cup sprint and being sort of a flat performance. But in my mind, he has all these excuses. I mean, he hadn't run since the Vanderbilt when he finished third, 5 lengths beaten by Jackie's Warrior. He had the 10 hole. His head was turned when the gates popped open. I mean, this is a horse who's just been so consistent up until then. If he was one of these ones where it's sort of like, one day he puts in this big performance, another day he's beaten 10 lengths, so on and so forth, blah, 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 it'd be one thing to me. And I would think he was more of a vulnerable sort. The fact that he put in a clunker there, he has every, again, excuse in the world. I will say I put Gatsby second. I think Gatsby's a really cool horse. He's freshened back up. We're going to cut back from that mile anyway, although it doesn't, like I said, I mean, he's freshened anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is a horse who's been pretty game, and we've seen him run a close second to Pudding. Pudding won our sprint stakes here at Tampa back in March. And you always see this horse, Gatsby kind of showing up. But I will say for my third pick, I am not discounting our 2-time returning champion, Chivalry. So, the blinkers are coming off. Ralph Nix had entered Catton as well. He has scratched him. So he is out, for those of you who don't know the updated changes. But Chivalry is just a cool horse. I mean, he's been consistently running against state-bred stakes competition down in Hallandale, but he's 2 for 3 over Tampa specifically. Those 2 wins being the Marion County themselves. This is a horse, I mean, he's earned so much respect because he's been so consistent throughout his career in being able to take on a stellar competition. I mean, back in the day, he was second to Tis the Law. Is he still like a grade 1 horse? No, but he's still good enough here, I think, to contend, at least for a piece of it. And I do think he's a better horse with those blinkers off. I think he digs in a bit more and is just more game. And so, I'm going to use him to round out the top 3.
Yeah, interesting. I hadn't really looked at him, but as you were talking, the 2 for 3 record at Tampa, including this race last year, at a price maybe, and Sammy Camacho on board certainly is a bonus as well. But interesting addition of the Marion County. And again, Willie Boy, ridden by Chantel Sutherland, should mention for Delgado last week. You look at her Tampa record; that was all last week. Won the stakes as well.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
Super Chow looked really good last week.
Yes, and it's nice to have had that. I mean, when you're riding more consistently down at one track, it was nice to probably get that freshener of Tampa, the lay of the land, when I feel like I really want to move. The one thing I've noticed a lot at Tampa recently, and I don't know why. I mean, they may have a reason for it. I just don't know. But so many of the dirt races, the horses are coming off the turn, the front runners, and the freaking rail is wide open. I'm not talking like one path, I'm talking like 2-3 paths open.
Yeah.
And horses cut the corner. And I'm like, why are the front runners leaving that open there? I don't know, but it's been happening. Maybe it will be different today. But, I mean, usually you see something like that if it's been raining a lot and the inside is heavy.
Yeah, no,
there's been no rain.
And as a player, that is super frustrating. If you have one of those front runners, no, don't leave that rail open.
I know. Yeah. I was like, gosh, no, you just lost
exactly.
How many ways? Oh boy. At any rate,
a little bit.
It's easy to say from the comfort of my chair here.
A little bit earlier on the card, the City of Ocala, Florida Sire race, and you said it looks like a logical day for the most part. And here I did go logical because it's Gerald Bennett, it's Rich Averill, who's based down in that area. His horses do very well with Bennett at Tampa typically. And we're going to pull up, in fact, a win for our Adios jersey last year in this race. And so number 2 horse here getting it done, returns to Tampa. Now it is off a May layoff, and if people are going to take a shot against, I can't really argue that much. Off the layoff, the fitness may be the question mark, but I'm going to land on our Adios jersey. What are your thoughts in the city of Ocala?
I completely agree. 1 and 2, this horse is, okay, her very first start, she wins by 12 3/4 lengths. She comes off a layoff from March to August in 2021. She wins the Grade 3 Charlestown Oaks by 3 1/4. She goes on a layoff again, comes back in December, wins this very race by 11 lengths. And then she comes back from December to April 2022. She gets beat just a half length, but that horse, Corey, was actually 4th. I mean, she only beat her by half length, like I said. Corey was then later 4th in the Grade 2 Princess Rooney, which was won by Cece. And there's another connection, too. So when our Adios jersey got beat last out when she had the far outside draw, she went out there 21 2, 44 2. She finally folded, finishes 6th, beating 7 3/4 lengths. The winner of that race, Spirit Wind, had won her prior 2 starts, including the Any Limit Stakes, and then she went on to run 2nd in that Grade 2 Princess Rooney to Cece. So I'm considering the competition. This horse is now fresh. We've seen how dangerous she's been when fresh, and yeah, I don't see beating her unless something unforeseen happens.
Yeah, again, the connections do very well, being Rich's kind of home base down there.
Yeah.
Again, it does look kind of logical for the most part, but we were talking before we went on the air. You said maybe a little bit of an idea in the finale this afternoon. So let's take a look at that and get an idea. In the 10th, $16,000 claimers. They're scheduled to go a mile on the grass. What are your thoughts in the 10th this afternoon at Tampa?
Well, and I mean, hey, this either could work or the horse could run up the track. It's one of those things.
I hear you.
South Sea, the 8 horse, yes, the 8 horse entered for Darian Rodriguez. You've got Antonio Gallardo up for him, and we know just how potent a combination those two are together, like 30%, okay? And here's the thing I just found so interesting with this horse. Yes, he's 8 years old, so that's a little bit of a question mark, to me. How many steps has he potentially lost from when he was actually able to be a really solid turf router? Because if you look at the recent past performances, this horse his turf starts and his dirt starts, he's been sprinting. And my question would be why? The last time he got to go a mile, which this race is, was back in September of 2021. The ground was yielding that day. He got the Shodo being 2.5 lengths in an optional 25 starter 16. And, I mean, this is just a horse. Like, back in the day, I know it's back in 2017, but he actually got beaten just a half length in the Columbia Stakes at Tampa Bay Downs. And, again, I just feel like, wow, maybe, they haven't given this horse the benefit of the doubt since he's been claimed to claim that, he can still go a mile, and he's going to prefer to do that mile on the grass. Let's get him back out there. I mean, he's out of an Empire Maker mare, for crying out loud, and his actual turf – the turf record is solid as it is. I just think this is a horse that he hasn't been able to put his best hoof forward, so to speak, because he hasn't gotten the right combination.
I handicapped the card for the handicapping show later today, and I will admit I did not use the 8, but as you were talking, you sold me. I put it in the mix because I'm looking down at the trainer stats and all the pertinent categories, and this may be one, third off the claim, whereas you say they're just like, you know what? Let's give it a shot at the mile on the grass. And as they say, the trainer does very well. And I 8-1 on the morning line. I have to think we'll get that price.
I think so. I think we'll at least get the 8-1 because I mean you've got a lot of solid horses in here who have shown recent form doing what they're going to be asked to do today.
Yeah.
I just think he's a horse that maybe is a sneaky under the radar type that, if he gets played, it'll probably more likely be because of the combination of who the connections are. But, I do think the horse himself has put together enough of a resume to respect him, in this type of scenario going a mile on grass against an open 16 claimer.
I like it. Race 10 at Tampa, number 8, South Sea, as I said, in my mix now. Ren, really appreciate the visit. As always fun to talk a little Tampa. And again, the meet kind of just getting underway, so we will check in plenty before the meet ends, but we appreciate the visit this morning.
Well, I love it. Every time I get to talk to you is a fun time. So thank you so much, Seth, and all the best and all your best.
Appreciate it. Ren Carothers, Tampa Bay Downs. You can see her throughout the afternoon with the cut-ins. She also tweets out her picks every day, so check that out as well. All right, we'll take one last break. When we come back, just a quick shot of some more news and notes on the day, and then we'll wrap it up. So stay tuned. Racing Across America continues.
The Clubhouse Racebook is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the Clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at capitalotb.com.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Wanted to hit on a feel-good story. It's always fun when an apprentice gets that first win, no matter what the venue. But there was a first victory of the career yesterday in New York. Maddie Olver, who, if you watch the Fox show, they profiled her. And I would think that featurette would be on YouTube maybe somewhere. But this summer, they did a little feature on Maddie Olver, who is an apprentice jockey. But they interviewed her, and she talked about, I think she had graduated college and approached Christophe Clement and said, I'd like to work the track. I'm thinking about being a jockey. And so she was working in the Christophe Clement barn when they did the story this summer. Subsequently, she has now gotten in the saddle in the afternoon, and yesterday, still searching for win number one. Just had, coming into the last couple of days, had maybe a dozen starts. Now I think she has 15 or 16. Well, I think the win was 15, and then she had a start after that, 16. But in the fifth race yesterday, she was on a horse called BC Glory Days, who turned into the stretch and had a big lead. You thought she's going to get it done at 19-1. And if you've been paying attention the last couple of weeks, this apprentice, Maddie Olver, has had kind of a handful, 3 or 4 prices that she's gotten into the mix that she's gotten more out of than was on the page. And so she was been kind of intriguing over the past week and a half or so, a couple of weeks to watch. So she brings this long shot, 19-1 BC Glory Days, into the stretch with a big lead. And one of the shorter priced horses, Ria's Angel, for the Red Hot Linda Rice, eventually ran her down. So she wound up second with the big price in the fifth race yesterday. She comes back in race number 6 at 12-1 and does get it done pretty easily with a six-length lead, $27 and change, Maddie Olver. And got a little screen capture here, and you can see the smile on her. It was really hilarious. It was very nice to see her. It's a Tom Morley horse, and the camera kind of picked her up out on the track, and then they have to walk through that little path to get down into the winner's circle area down at Aqueduct, and Tom Morley was going with her, and she had the smile just plastered on her face. And then here it is, the traditional greeting of the first victory by the other jockeys, although they stepped it up here. I don't think I've ever seen a hose. So they pulled out the hose together as well, but it's always a little water and toss a little powder on and whatnot. And so she got the the traditional greeting by the other jockeys after her first victory. And there you can see the smile still plastered on her face. But again, she came into the winner's circle on the horse and just could not stop, and understandably could not stop smiling, and then posed for the winner's picture on the horse with the connections, still smiling. And then the picture we had, she got off and she was still posing for some pictures, big smile. And subsequently on Twitter, I saw that on the Fox show yesterday, Maggie Wolfendale did interview her, and she was smiling right through that. Good for her. And again, Maggie interviewed her, and it was a fun interview because Maggie's husband, Tom, trained the horse. And she said she'd been getting up on the horse in the morning and really thought the horse had some potential. And so she got it done. Career victory #1 for Medicine, Maddie Oliver, who I think is going to be worth watching, at least this winter. Going to be worth watching going forward because, as I say, she's been riding okay. And career start number 15, got the first victory. So, again, good for her, but it was fun to see yesterday. And some news that we touched on the Handicappers Report earlier. Jason Service pled guilty yesterday to resolve, I'm quoting here from the article, to resolve charges arising from the government's sweeping investigation into horse doping at racetracks around the country. Service faces up to 4 years in prison. So we'll see how it all adds out. I mentioned earlier on the handicapping show, Blood Horse, I think it was a Jay Hovde article. There's an interesting timeline going through Jason Service, and it's the high percentage mark, and then, the career of Maximum Security, the win over at Saudi Arabia, where they have held the purse for that victory by Maximum Security. And, Anthony Mormino was speculating, do they take the Eclipse Award away? It's, the story has yet to be told to the point where the period is put on the sentence. But Jason Service yesterday pled guilty in that case. So wanted to get that out there as well. All right, I am going to wrap it up for Racing Across America for this Saturday morning. Fun, a couple of visits. Nacy Holthus from Oaklawn. I love both tracks we talked about today. Two of my favorite tracks this time of year, regardless of the time of year. Oaklawn underway, and again, you saw yesterday there can be some really nice value, and I managed to have a little bit of it and maybe not so much. And that's the way some of those Oaklawn days will work out. But if you get something right, you can get paid very well down there at Oaklawn. Tampa offers some of that same kind of action as well, but Tampa with the nice turf racing during the winter and whatnot. And so we talked some of the stakes action at both of those tracks and beyond with Nacy Holthus from Oaklawn and Ren Carothers from Tampa. So it was a fun edition today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully we tossed out some ideas to play into this afternoon. I'll be back in about an hour or so. Yeah, Aqueduct will kick off at 12:20. So I'll have some Aqueduct in the mix. Have a little Oaklawn as well, and some Tampa. Let me just double check. Our Tampa post time for today is 12:27. Oaklawn, of course, will be a little bit later as they're in the different time zone, but we'll throw those tracks into the mix on this Saturday afternoon. So I'll be back in about an hour or so with OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. In the meantime, we'll have the pregame show from Naira. I'm just looking at their signal. It looks like they may be getting ready or around the corner from their kickoff to the morning pregame show down in New York. So I'll step back. Always appreciate your tuning in. Seth Merrow, Racing Across America for a Saturday morning. We'll be back tomorrow morning again for Racing Across America, our typical Sunday with some recap of some of today's stakes action and more. So looking forward to that. But in the meantime, as I say, I'll be back in about an hour or so with an OTB Live for Saturday afternoon. So we'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.